Hi everyone, so welcome to our class. So today we are going to continue with a new topic, and the topic that we're going to continue with would be your transport in plants. So it would be very helpful if you could take out your notes now, the one that I asked you to print, the ones about transport in plants. Okay, so it should be the ones that I have here as well. So I'll show you here. Yeah, so it should be, you have this printed with you by now. Okay, so it should be with you. Just a sec, I'll just finish up this. Yeah, okay, so today we are going to continue with the topic. So previously we had looked about photosynthesis, about nutrition in plants. So you should know by now that what is photosynthesis, what are the word equations, what are the chemical equations, as well as the factors which affect the rate of photosynthesis. Okay, and today we're going to build up on that. Okay, and we're going to know because if you think the plant is doing photosynthesis, so they are making all of this. And as you know, that they require chlorophyll, they require sunlight. And where does chlorophyll present? The chlorophyll will only be present inside your leaves, right? But they are making food, and the food is not just available for the leaves. The food must be transferred. It must be translocated. It must be moved. Okay, it must be given to every other part of the leaf as well. Okay, every other parts of the leaves, every other parts of the plant. Okay, so this does not just include your leaves, it could also include your flowers, it could include your stem, your roots. Okay, and if you think as well that the fact that photosynthesis, if you remember the word equation, it will be carbon dioxide plus water, right? And where do they actually get the water from? The water, they actually get it from the xylem. Okay, the xylem structures that are found inside the plant. And where do the xylem get their water from? It will be from the soil, right? So in other words, there must be a system, there must be a way in which that the water will get transported from the roots onto the leaves. Okay, and the same case will happen as well. Once the plant has finished photosynthesizing, they are making all these foods, but all these foods is not just going to be stored in the leaves. Okay, it's going to be brought down to every other part of the plant as well, including the roots. Okay, contohnya macam kamu punya ubi kayu contohnya. Okay, so the leaves are photosynthesizing, they are making all the sugars, and once it's making all the sugars, what they will do, they will actually keep all the sugars in the form of starch. And where do they bring it? They will actually bring it down arahnya punya roots. Yeah. Okay, so which means there must be a way, there must be a system in which transportation occurs. Okay, so that's what we're dealing with today. So we're going to look at the transport system in plants. Okay, so this, oh, by the way, if you actually take out your textbooks as well, okay, so I've brought my textbook with me. Okay, so if you take out your textbook, if you turn to page 171, okay, so your yellow textbook, page 171, this should be what you refer to as well. So whilst we are doing this, whilst I'm explaining, you should have this textbook out with you as well. Okay, so it's page 171, and we're going to discuss from page 171 until page up until page 175. Okay, so we're going to deal with the transport system, the structures and functions. Okay, the rest we're going to look at some other time later. Right, so you have this right next to you or in front of you, and for now we're going to look at this notes first. Okay, so what's the first point? It says here photosynthesis photosynthesis is a very important process in plants as it provides foods for themselves, and plants require carbon dioxide, water, and mineral salts to carry out photosynthesis, right? So as I mentioned, okay, this actually links to the previous topic, which is on photosynthesis, right? And what do we know? That photosynthesis actually requires carbon dioxide, and it also requires water, as well as mineral salts, right? So if you see here, the carbon dioxide that can easily diffuse into the leaves, okay? But the ones that we are concerned with is water and the mineral salts. Okay, what are the mineral salts that they require will be the nutrients, for example, the nitrates, the magnesium, okay, the sodium, and so on and so forth, right? So these are the ones that actually require the transport system. Okay, so the second point, what does it say there? It says the food being produced is glucose, which is sugar, which may be directly used for aerobic respiration or converted into other compounds such as starch, fats, and amino acids. So this one we know, okay, we have established it before, but all the sugars, all the glucose that they have make during photosynthesis, it would be used for respiration, okay, they can be used for energy, or it could be converted to other compounds such as your starch, fats, and amino acids. So we know this before, right? So we have to look at this. We've looked, if you remember, when we discussed about the states of glucose. Okay, so if you don't remember, you should go back to your notes at some point later, right? And you see here, they're actually converting into starch, they're converted into fat, and they're converted into amino acids. So all these compounds here are actually compounds that can be found at every other part of the plant. So it's not just your leaves, it's also including your roots as well as your stems. Okay, and says here, since photosynthesis only occurs in the leaves, there is a need for transport system in plants which provides a way of carrying water and mineral salts, a way of carrying sugar, and if necessary, a way of carrying sugar and amino acids from storage organ to the leaves when it is not photosynthesizing. Okay, so what it's saying here, so as I established earlier, because they are doing this photosynthesis, they need water. And once they are done with photosynthesis, they are producing sugar. So where do they actually, how do they actually bring it to every other part of the plant? So this is how they are doing it. Okay, they need the transport system for what? So if you will, you can include all of this as the why now. Why do they need a transport system? Okay, number one is a way of carrying water and mineral salts. So they need water, they need mineral salts in order to do what? In order to do photosynthesis, right? And how do water and mineral salts, how do they get carried? They are actually getting carried through the structure, what we call a xylem. Okay, I'm pretty sure you have heard of this. Okay, we've discussed before when we were in the first topic. Okay, and this comes up again, right? So xylem, what does it do? It carries water and mineral salts. Okay, if you don't remember what xylem is, you should go back to your notes, your previous notes. Okay, it will be very easy for you to understand what's happening afterwards, right? And the second point, what are they for? Is a way of carrying sugar and amino acids from the leaves to other parts of the plant while it is photosynthesizing. So what it means is once they are photosynthesizing, okay, they are making all these foods. So all the food, it doesn't just stay in the leaves. What they will do, they will get transported, they will get carried to every other part of the plant, right? Or what forms, and they are stored as what? They are stored as sugar, they are stored as amino acids. And how do they get transported? They get transported through the structure, what we call as phloem, right? And why do we need it as well? So the third reason why we need the transport system is a way for carrying sugar and amino acids from storage organs in leaves when it is not photosynthesizing. So it's not just because it's not just important for photosynthesizing, but it's also important when they are not photosynthesizing. Okay, because when the plants are not photosynthesizing, so it means they need to do respiration. They need to do a lot of respiration. So what do they need to do? Is they need to get all the food products that they have made. Okay, the ones that they simpan everywhere. They simpan arah leaves, they simpan arah roots. So if they're not photosynthesizing, they're not making any food, so they have to use up all the food. Okay, they have to makan all the food now, right? And how do they makan? They need to take the food from the storage first. Where is the storage? Storage near arayo, every other part of the plant, right? And how do they do it? As they need the transport system, they need the phloem. Okay, so those are the reasons why the plants actually need the transport system, right? And as you can see here, you see they're using xylem, they're using phloem, and they are using phloem as well. So immediately you can tell that the most important structures that are needed for transport system in plants is actually your xylem and phloem. And collectively, they are what we call as the vascular bundles. Okay, so they are what we call as vascular bundles. Now, upper vascular bundle is essentially a component for the transport system, which is made up of your xylem as well as your phloem. Okay, and some other parts of tissues as well, some other tissues which we'll have a look later. Okay, and because of that, we need to know about the positions occupied by the xylem and phloem in the vascular bundles of the roots, stem, and leaves in a typical dicotyledonous plant as shown. Okay, so what the hell is saying is simply because we know that xylem and phloem is very, very important, that these vascular bundles, they are very important for transport system. And for transport system, it's not just in our roots, it's not just in our leaves, it actually spans throughout all of the plants. Okay, so which means every other parts of the plant, they would have the vascular bundles located everywhere. Okay, starting from the roots, ada vascular bundle, ada xylem phloem, masuk arah stemnya, okay, masuk arah tengah-tengahnya, ada xylem, ada phloem, and lastly arah leafnya, arah tinggi sekali, ada xylem and phloem, ada vascular bundles as well. So it's actually all connected together, right? And because of that, we need to understand how they are positioned. Okay, because you know, it's quite important that we know the structure. Okay, so as you can see here in this diagram, right? So we actually have a cross section, okay, a transverse sections of root. So what do I do is I actually have a plant, okay, so ambil plantnya secabut, lepas satu saya ambil arah akarnya saja. So yang plant akarnya tarik, putong, right? So seputong macam mana? So let's say this is all the akar. Okay, this is akar macam mana? Okay, so this is all the akar. I putong the akar macam mana, and then I show it to you macam mana. Okay, so once I cabut, I putong macam mana, lepas itu I view it macam mana. Okay, so this is what you will see. Okay, this is the actual tissue structure. Okay, so this is how it looks like actually when you view it under the microscope. Okay, so this is, you should be familiar with this. Okay, this actual tissue structure, and this is when you are trying to draw them. Okay, so this is the schematic diagram, the drawing. This is the actual tissue structure when you view it under microscopes, and you need to be familiar with both. Right, and if you can see here, okay, so if you look at the schematic diagram first, because I think the schematic is much more easier. If you look at the schematic diagram, okay, so what you have is yang ada siring-siringnya tuh, ada yang kamu nampak macam yang apa tuh macam juntai-juntai soalnya. Okay, and all these things, these are actually the elongated, the root hair cells. Okay, so at the end here, they actually have a root hair cells, and if you remember, the root hair cells actually, it has the elongated hair-like structure. Okay, so that's what actually they are trying to show here, yang panjang-panjang keluar itu. Okay, it's not shown here because out of the actual tissue, it will be very, very small. Okay, it's very, very payah kan dilihat out the normal microscope, right? But actually, you actually have it there, right? So it will be not shown here, but it's actually there. But the outermost layer, so if you see here, this layer here, okay, and the outermost layer that you can find here, this is what we call is the epidermis. Okay, epi means luar, dermis means kulit, so which means kulit luar. I mean, in this case, it's not kulit humans lah, but it will be kulit pada rootsnya. So we call it as epidermis, lapisan luaran. Okay, and lapisan luaran ini di mana ada root hairs. So as you can see here, epidermis with root hairs. Ini the actual tissue-nya, you can see the epidermis there, but you can't see the root hairs. Okay, but it's there. Right. Now, lapas the epidermis, what you can see is you actually have, if you go back to this diagram, you actually have a huge white area here. Okay, and in this case, you actually have, it's not just simply blank. It's actually you are filled with tissues, you are filled with cells. Okay, they're all similar cells. So there are tissues which are what we call as the cortex region. Okay, so we call it as cortex. There, we call it as cortex. Okay, now we'll talk later. What are they for? The cortex, epidermis, blah, 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 all these things. What's the functions now? We're going to have it later. Now we just identify that. So you have the epidermis, you have the cortex, so the white region here. Now, then you can see, getting to the inside, you have another layer here, another brown layer. And this layer, kalau di luar, epi, lapisan luar, dermis, lapisan luar, epi. Now, lapisan dalam, we call it as endodermis. Okay, endo means inside. Dermis means lapisan kulitnya. So this is what you see. Okay, lapisan dalam. Okay, kalau sini, mana endodermisnya, Nina? Right, you can see it's quite distinct there. Right, now, oh yeah. Now, this is the important bit. Okay, the most important bit for this is you need to know the positions of the vascular bundle, which is the xylem, which is the phloem. Okay, now in a root, if you see the schematic diagram as well as the actual tissue, you can find there is a distinct other X structures here. And in this case, you can see there is an X here. Where is the X? There. And this. Okay, so you can see X here. So which is represented by this X. So X stands for xylem. Okay, so it's very easy to remember. The X stands for what? X stands for xylem. Okay, and you should know that xylem carries what? They carry water and mineral salts. And phloem, mana satu? Phloem is siring-siringnya. Ada macam kelompok-kelompok empat butir tengah-tengah. So this region here, ada schematic diagram. And in this case, where is the phloem? So this is the X, this is the xylem. And phloemnya arah mana? Phloemnya arah ni lah sini. Okay, so those are the phloems. Okay, so this is the transverse section, the cross section. Kalau kami lihat arah roots. Okay, now we are moving up. Tadi arah roots. Now we are moving up arah ia punya stemnya. Okay, so stemnya apa usulnya? Macam mana usulnya? Macam mana positionsnya? Now, this is usulnya. Kalau kamu compare roots semani, stem semani. Okay. Now, so again, this is the actual photograph. This is the actual microscopic photograph, or what we call it photomicrograph. And this is the diagram, the schematic, the drawings. Right. So, by the way, this is what how you would probably draw in a practical, but either this or this should be easily identified. Now, what are the structures now? Okay, same thing, lapisan luar, ada satu lapisan luar, sini lapisan luar yang ujung sekali, is what we call as the epidermis. And then you tulis ini dermal tissue. Okay, and it's the same as epidermis. Okay, sama saja. Or you can just replace this dermal tissue with epidermis. Okay, and you have the epidermis, then you have the white area. So the white area, now this is actually the same region here. Kalau sini tadi, it was the cortex, right? So the type of tissues is actually quite similar as well. So this region is also what we call as the cortex, or but to easy for us to identify, we just call them as pits. Okay, so it's just for us to easily identify cortex, roots, pits, stem. Okay, but the types of cells are actually quite similar. Okay, it's just kira macam the fillings, right? The ones that are important. Okay, this is the one that we wanted. Okay, is actually the vascular bundle. So this is the vascular bundle here. Okay, you can easily see the distinctions as the label you're seeing as well. Okay, vascular bundle. So that's the vascular bundle. And if you see the vascular bundle here, or the vascular bundle in the diagram, you can easily see other distinct types of tissues. Okay, so there are actually ada macam 1, 2, 3. There are macam ada 3 layers. So you can see it from here as well. So you have 1, 2, and 3. Okay, but the ones that we are interested in is actually xylem sama phloem. So here, xylem sama phloem. Now, xylem arah mana? Xylem is the one that actually the layer yang di dalam sekali ini. Nah, sini. So yang di dalam is your xylem. Yang di luar, keluar sikit. Okay, yang warna kuning itu, those are the phloem, right? So if you see the actual diagram, where is the xylem? The xylem is yang besar lubang sikit tengah-tengah tu sini. Okay, yang facing ke tengah. Those are the xylem. And phloem is yang mana satu? Phloem is yang di sini. Region sini. Okay, so you have xylem inside, phloem facing outside. Okay, there's actually the easier way to remember, but it's hard for me to demonstrate it here. Okay, as you know, I like to use you guys as the models. But kalau sini payah fikir so nanti. But for now, it's just enough if you remember positions here saja. There's no way that I can help you any much further. Okay, so this is the same structures of vascular bundle, stem juga. Okay, so this is in another type of plant, right? So it's slightly different from what we see here. Okay, but in this case, this is what we have, right? So you have the epidermis luaran. Okay, you have pith yang tengah-tengah, you have the cortex, the pith, and then you have phloem, you have xylem. Oh, by the way, you have the tissue tengah-tengah lagi between the phloem and xylem is what we call as cambium. Okay, but for you guys, you don't need to know so much about cambium. Okay, it's enough for you to know the positions of phloem, position of xylem, function of phloem, function of xylem. Okay, no need to know the rest. Okay. And lastly, okay, and as I mentioned earlier, it will all be connected to your leaf, and this is how the structures of the leaf would look like. And you see here, around your leaf, around the mid veins, the mid ribs of the leaf. This is where they branch off. Sini is also where you can all the xylem and phloem, dia punya sources, and it will actually branch out. Okay, it will actually branch out to the veins as well. Okay, and if you actually cut through, right? So you have cut through, you have the xylem, you have the leaf, xylem. Okay, so what will happen is yang arah atas, yang black structures above, Okay, yang sini atas, atas, atas. That is actually the position of your xylem. Yang bawah facing ke bawah, yang the white itu is actually your phloem. Okay, so macam mana saya akan ingatkan X tengah-tengah xylem. Okay, xylem tengah-tengah arah roots, lepas satu stem ke dalam, facing ke dalam arah stem, and then sudahnya arah leaf, dia facing ke atas. So macam mana? So kamu boleh imagine macam misalnya kamu waktu as the plant. Okay, kamu waktu as the plant. So this is your hand. Your hands facing sini is the xylem, position of xylem. So if you put your hands macam mana, okay, so if you put your hands macam mana, so what you're having is that you are facing the xylem. Kirakan sini xylem, sini phloem, let's say. Okay, so this is the xylem, or the inside the xylem. So your roots arah kaki is still in the berubah, facing ke dalam xylem. So X is xylem. Arah body tengah-tengah di dalam is still xylem. Tapi sudahnya leaf, kan kalau leaf kami dia sprout cemani. Okay, so now kalau tadi cemani, sini xylem kan. Now when your leaf sprout, they sprout, ia cemani. Now yang tadi tengah-tengah sini, xylem sini, now when it's sprouting, ia cemani. So ia bertukar ke atas. So xylem atas, phloem bawah, arah leafnya. Okay, so that's kira my trick to remember it. Okay, I don't know whether it works for you, but it works quite well with me and the rest of my students before. Okay, so we have gone through the structures, okay, how it looks like, where is the position of xylem, where is the position of phloem, okay? And now we're going to look at the functions, okay, the functions of the main tissues that we have identified in the stems and the roots, yeah. Okay, so firstly, we're going to look at the epidermis. So epidermis, if you still remember which one is epidermis, if you just scroll up here, epidermis is yang di luar, lapisan luar. Okay, kalau arah rootsnya, mana epidermis? Ini yang luar sini. That is the epidermis. This is the epidermis. Okay, up to arah roots. Kalau arah stem, mana epidermis? This is the epidermis. Lapisan luar. Epi, luar, dermis, lapisan kulit. Right, so now here, epidermis, descriptionsnya, what are they? They are simply a thin outer layer of living cells. Okay, so it's just actually a layer of cells. And what is its functions? Untuk apa? So number one, it maintains the shape of the whole structure. So apa maksudnya? It's just maintaining, okay, supaya shape rootsnya tu in the luar macam slime, okay, ia macam it's quite rigid, okay. Right. Okay, so that's the functions, one of the functions of your epidermis. So number one, it helps to maintain the shape of the whole structure. So the whole structure is maintaining the shape of the stem, maintaining the shape of the roots, right? And number two, it also helps to offer protections against bacterial or fungal infection. So in some ways, it also helps to protect against bacteria and fungi. Okay, because it helps to prevent, it helps by building a barrier, macam dinding. Kalau dinding, either ada bacteria masuk, okay, payah bacteria kan masuk, right? So number three, this is the important bit as well. Okay, some differentiates into projections, what we call as root hair cells. Okay, so this is the ones that we had looked at before in your first topic, is setengah daripada sel-sel epidermis satu, ia akan differentiate, ada projection, ada the hair-like structure, which is what we call as the root hair, which is what we call as the root hair cells. Okay, you should know this. Okay, and what is the functions of root hair cells? So I'm just gonna let you do it for a bit. Okay, If you need more time, by the way, you can pause, right? So you can write it down there. But I'm just going to continue. What is the functions of root hair cell? So the functions of root hair cell is they have the long hair-like projections. They have a long elongated hair-like extensions. For what? To increase the surface area to volume ratio. Why you want to increase the surface area to volume ratio? Because you want to increase the efficiency for rapid diffusions. So rapid diffusion, rapid absorptions of water and minerals. Okay, we've discussed this. Okay, if you forgot what this is, then I would direct you to your notes on topic 1. Was it topic 1? Yeah, topic 1 about specialized cell structure. You look at root hair cell. Should be identical. We discussed before. Okay. Now, the next region is the cortex region. So the cortex region is, if you go back here, we go up, 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 up. Okay, so this is the cortex region here, the cortex, including the pith lah. So the cortex, the pith is the same thing. It's made up of the same type of cells, same type of tissues, right? So yang tengah-tengah, yang macam dada papa, ruang-ruangnya tu macam satu. And also here, and also that's the cortex. This is the cortex as well. Okay. Now, what are they for? If you scroll back here, that would be yeah. Now, what is the descriptions? Yeah. Okay, the descriptions. They are also known as the packing tissues because it, you know, macam untuk mengisi ruang-ruang kosong. So packing. And several layers of relatively large thin wall living cells located between the epidermis and the pith. Okay, so they are sebenarnya ada they are actually quite large, your punya cells. Some of them are even larger than the xylem, even larger than phloem. Okay, so that's what they are saying. Several layers of relatively large thin walls, ia besar and dindingnya nipis. Okay, what are they for? Well, here, the cells are highly permeable to water in dissolved solutes, which means water and anything minerals, anything salts, they can easily masuk arah the cells, arah the cortex. Okay, so kalau ia easily permeable, easily masuk, then what does it mean? So it means the water and the minerals can easily arrive into the phloem or into the xylem. Okay, so if you see here, this is what it means. Semua cells yang ada di sini ni, arah sana, arah sini, or arah sini ni, it's because they are relatively large, thin walls. And they are saying, kalau ia large, sudah tak ia large, and it's thin, kalau thin dia punya walls-nya, artinya sanang air dari luar untuk sanang air or minerals dari luar untuk masuk. So they can easily pass through, so that they can easily enter into the xylem. They can easily enter into the vascular bundles. That's what it means. Here. Okay, cells are highly permeable to water. Tanang masuk, air masuk, solid masuk. Second point, intercellular air spaces. Intercellular air spaces in this layer allow oxygen to diffuse into the stem or root for aerobic respiration. So because they have a lot of spaces, you see, sini, macam besar kan ada sel-selnya tu besar ruang-ruangnya. So besar ruang-ruangnya artinya sanang juga untuk gases to diffuse in and out. Untuk apa? Untuk buat respiration. Okay. Number 3, the third region. Reasons. Okay. The cells may be used to store starch in the form of granules. Okay. Arah cortex ini juga is where sometimes they may put all the excess food, the starch, the whatsoever, they will store it di sini, ada the cortex region, and they will store it in the form of granules. Apa maksud granules? Granules maksudnya macam biji-biji. Okay, so that's there. Then we are looking at the vascular tissue. Okay, so which one is the vascular tissue? Again, vascular tissue, if you look at your notes, ini nah, kalau arah leaf, these are the vascular tissue or the vascular bundle, it's the same thing. Sini, the whole thing, yang macam elemen atau those are the vascular bundle or the vascular tissue. But this one is arah stem. Okay, this is also arah stem, whereas kalau arah roots, these are the vascular bundle, the vascular tissue. Right? So what's the descriptions? What's the function? If we scroll back down, okay, here. So it is the central parts of the roots. Ini yang pentingnya, cakapnya arah roots kamu. They are arranged in a ring in stem. So ia kena susun macam arah bulatan. Susun dalam bentuk bulatan. Arah stemnya. Okay, kalau arah roots ia yang tengah-tengah cakapnya, which is true. Kalau kamu lihat sini, ini lah. Bersusun, it forms a ring, a circle. Okay, whereas kalau arah roots, ia central, ia tengah-tengah. And here, what do they consist of? They contain of 3 types of tissues. You have upper tissues-nya, you have xylem. What else do you have? You have cambium. You also have phloem. Okay, so you can easily, we have identified earlier, you have xylem, phloem, and cambium, right? So first, we look at xylem first. Nina, xylem, okay, if you don't remember, again, you go back to your topic 1, specialized tissues. Okay, we've discussed about xylem before. Okay, and this one should be just a quick recap. Okay, so what are xylem? There are long, continuous, no-end walls, narrow tube formed from roots to stem to leaves. So ia very panjang, it is continuous, daripada bermula dari rootsnya, akarannya bersambung ke stemnya sampai to every other parts of leaves-nya. Okay, so it is very long, it is continuous. Maksudnya, ia bersambung semua sekali. Ia bersambung, tidak ada end walls. Maksudnya, tidak terputus. Okay, and it is a narrow tube, so it's straw. Okay, from roots to leaves. It is also hollow and hence non-living cells. So hollow, maksudnya, ia, straw. Tengah-tengahnya yang di dalam itu tidak ada isi. Okay, kalau nada isi, artinya nada ada cytoplasm, nada nucleus, nada anything else. So it's just a tube. Okay, it's just a horse saja. It's just a straw. Okay, since it's just a straw, it's not living. And the cell walls are lignified. So you should be familiar with this. Lignified, apa maksudnya? Which it means that the walls is deposited with lignin. So apa lignin is macam semen. Okay, so xylem ia kena bagi semen arah tube-nya tu. Supaya apa semennya? Supaya kalau ia mentransport water sekarang, semennya tu, straw-nya tu, macam kalau straw biasa kamu sirup, kadang-kadangnya luan kain leher, malah nyaman, lepas terkampis straw-nya. Okay, so kami tidak mau straw-nya arah xylem atau terkampis. So apa kami buat? Kami bagi lignin, kami bagi semen supaya straw-nya tu macam straw semen. Kalau straw semen kamu sirup berhabis dari terkampis. Same thing. Okay, so if you still struggle to remember, go back to this. Okay, topic 1, specialized tissues, go to xylem. You can find it. Okay. Now, next part is, I'm gonna go to phloem first because kalau cambium jarang, it's not much importance. Importantnya phloem and xylem. So phloem, what are they? They are located near to the outside. Kalau near to the outside, maksudnya siring-siring sebelah dengan xylemnya. Di mana ada xylem, confirm sebelahnya ada phloem, tapi di bagian luar. Okay, and while there are thin elongated living cells joined end to end to form long sieve tubes. Okay, so this one, sama juga. Okay, there are elongated living cells jointed end to end. So macam ia straw, tapi strawnya tuh ia bagi tengah-tengahnya tuh ia bagi penapis megi. So macam ada straw panjang, tapi tengah-tengah macam in between ada disimpannya penapis megi. Okay, so it will form, and this whole thing is what we call a sieve tubes. Okay, nah, yang penapis megi itu ya kan macam straw juga, kan sama, ya macam straw, thin elongated living cells, and the thing is they are living. Kalau xylem, it's non-living. Kalau ini, in this case, ia macam straw, ada penapis megi, and dalamnya ada isi. Okay, so they are living. And penapis megi itu kami panggil sebagai sieve plates. Okay, so how come do they form? Because the end walls, they are not digested away and they are perforated. So perforated maksudnya lubang-lubang. Okay, so yang benarnya ia sel 1, sel 2, sel 3 bersusun. Kalau arah xylem, sel wall yang sini ini kena pecah. So ia menjadi straw macam ni. Tapi kalau arah phloem, ia bersusun macam ni, dia tidak kena pecah berhabis. Apa ia bagi, apa ia buat, ia lubang-lubang ni saja. So perforated, itu macam penapis megi semuanya. Okay, yang satu kami panggil sebagai sieve plates yang sini, yang lubang-lubang itu. Okay, you can, oh by the way, if you can't imagine it, you go to your textbook page, page 173. Okay, this diagram here. Okay. Right, so this is the one that I'm talking about. Okay, so can I see? Yeah. Okay, and the walls are, it says the walls are unthickened. So maksudnya it's unlike xylem. Kalau xylem ia ada lignin, kena bagi semen. Kalau phloem ini payah. Okay, ia nak kena bagi semen yang seringnya. Okay, and accompanied by smaller cells alongside the sieve tubes known as companion cells. Tapi walaupun yang bersemen arah strawnya ni, arah straw phloem ni, okay, yang bersemen, tapi siring-siringnya ia ada macam bodyguard. Okay, ia ada bodyguard, ia ada tangannya. Okay, ia tangannya, it has smaller cells alongside the sieve tube known as companion cells. Okay, so we will have a look. It will make much more sense nanti apa functionsnya companion cells, sieve plates, whatsoever arah phloem ini when we actually go through the process of translocation. Okay, I mean we just want to know the structures first. Okay, and here the content of phloem sieve tubes is known as the phloem sac. Okay, so ini tah yang kena panggil kadangnya the rubber sap or the plant sap or whatever, yang gatah, gatah macam arah the rubber plantations whatsoever. The gatah tu actually datang dari mana? Arah the sieve tubes. Yeah. Okay. And if you go back to, by the way, here, what is the function of phloem? Okay, the function of phloem is, now, kamu tulis, the function of phloem here, kamu tulis arah sini, functionnya is to transport or translocate. Okay, the function of phloem is to transport or translocate manufactured organic food substances from source, i.e. leaves, photosynthesizing leaves, into sink, i.e. storage. Okay, So if you don't get it, you can easily rewind back. Okay, so that is the function of phloem. And largely, pith, as I mentioned, pith is the same part. Kan sama macam ia punya cortex-nya. Okay, so the function is also quite similar to the cortex as well. So we're just gonna refer. I'm just gonna ask you to refer back to cortex. It's the same function. Yeah. Okay. And is that it? Right. So yeah. So I think that's it for today. So for today, we're just gonna. I'm just introducing you dulu. Kenapa? So if you just recall back. Okay, just recall back because I'm not gonna go through a lot today. So again, first thing about what we have done is we have recalled back about photosynthesis, and we should have by now be able to relate about the relationships between photosynthesis and why do they need the transport system. Okay, and apa the transport system, apa the transport structures, the plants that they use, the main transport structures that they use is the vascular bundle, which is your xylem and phloem. Now, apa usul xylem, apa usul phloem? Usul xylem, you already have in your topic 1. If you have trouble, go back to your topic 1, okay? Or if you will, you can also check your textbook as well. Okay, your textbook, page 172, ada xylem sana. Okay, we know about the position of xylem. You should know by now the position of xylem, arah roots, arah stem, arah leaves, as well as the position and function of phloem. Okay, position of phloem, arah roots, position of phloem, arah the stem, sorry, and the position of phloem arah leaves. And we've also looked at the functions, okay, upper functions, yeah, of the different types of tissues, different types of structures that you can find, the stem, roots, as well as the leaves. Okay, so right, so I think that's all for today. We're going to continue with the next part of the lesson. So the next part of the lesson, we will look at how do they actually absorb the water. Okay, how do they actually water get transported from the roots? How do they go up to the stem, and how do they reach the leaves? Yeah. Okay, there are actually the forces that are being used, right? If some part, well, hopefully some parts small, but we will also look at the process of translocation. Okay, how do they actually transport food, manufactured food for after photosynthesis? Okay, so that's it for today. I'll see you guys next lesson. Okay, so bye.